Hey, welcome back to We Were Gamers. I should probably stop yelling hey into the microphone each time, huh?
I don't know. Maybe it's like a trademark. This is the guy that yells.
Sure, maybe. By the way, I'm Andrew, and that's JJ, and this is We Were Gamers. And last episode was our huge episode 10. And JJ, we didn't tell people what we were doing. Didn't remind them what we were doing on this podcast, and we also didn't give out our Twitter or our website or anything else. So we're extremely professional.
This is the most professional podcast anyone will ever listen to. Definitively.
What are we doing on this podcast?
We are two friends who have been gaming and used to be a lot more hardcore gamers. And now we're dealing with the fact that we're kind of too old to do that anymore. And we still want a game. We still want to talk about games of all sorts. And now, we're trying to keep our hobby up.
There you have it. Well, speaking of hardcore games and things you have to put a lot of time into, you were just playing Hearthstone before this podcast, and I have a comment.
Yeah, I was. What about it?
I haven't been playing Hearthstone very much, just enough to stay on the gold treadmill and no more. And
Andrew,
what?
There was a big development in Hearthstone recently.
What was that?
They released a new hero portrait.
Oh my gosh, so monumental that I spent 2 hours doing that today and then immediately regretted it after having spent maybe an hour a day or less on the game and finding myself enjoying it much more than when I was grinding for Legend and never got it.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you about your issue in life that you tried to grind for Legend and couldn't do it. But are you meaning that you're enjoying the game more now that you're not playing it all the time?
Yeah, I found myself doing my quest and then stopping, and then I'm like, well, Hearthstone doesn't make me as depressed anymore when people, cast 50 spells with Yogg and then magically pull a Brawl and 2 Savage Roars and they win the game.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that. Actually, right before we started this podcast, I lost to a person who played Yogg, and I guess I wasn't praising him enough during that game. It's my fault for not praising Yogg enough. It's you gotta bow down before the god of death. That's what he says. And I wasn't bowing enough, and my opponent was, and I lost. So, it's my fault, really. You gotta blame yourself. The deities can't be wrong.
I think there's way too much blaming of the self in hardcore Hearthstone, and that is no longer part of things I worry about currently, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, and this week, Andrew, is the week where you can complete all your quests against friends.
For how long?
I believe they said this week.
That would make it so much more fun.
It is pretty fun. I spent some of my lunch period at work today playing some Hearthstone against some friends, as I do often at lunch. Play some Hearthstone, do my quests or whatever. And I happened to have a friend online at the time, and we did some quests against each other, and I just played some random janky stuff, and it was hilarious.
You don't think they'll let that be a permanent thing? I mean, too much gold farming for them to let that be permanent, right?
Well, I mean, the games don't... If you concede, it doesn't work. So you have to play a legitimate game.
Oh, they have like a timer on it? Or how do they know?
I don't know. Look, I don't know. They haven't said what the exact requirements are. But, come on. It doesn't take that long to just play a game of Hearthstone against your buddy.
No, and in fact, if I could complete quests by playing my friends, I would play my friends a lot more and the ladder a lot less. And I would think that, when we used to play card games, and we used to play a ton of card games, people, Magic, Warlord, Legend of the Five Rings, Lord of the Rings, yep. Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I'm forgetting some, I guarantee it.
We played some Magic the Gathering, right?
I think I started with Magic, but maybe I didn't.
Did you say that already?
I don't know.
Well, anyway.
I don't listen myself, so...
No fact checking.
But so we've been around the card game block, especially collectibles, and we did some tournaments, and we got blown out in a lot of tournaments back in the day, and I'm sure if
we actually did well sometimes too, surprisingly.
Sure, yeah, I agree with that, especially when we did Strategic Warlord, which is for those of you that don't know what strategic any sort of card game would be. It's more like if you played Risk or Diplomacy, but then to fight the battles, you played the card game.
Yeah. It's a very silly variant of basically any card game, and it ends up being pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. I have no major complaints about it, but I think the real enjoyable part of Magic was not worrying about having the entire collection of cards, trading so that you could have your really good green deck, and somebody else could have their really good black deck, and somebody else could have their really good red deck, and then just playing against your friends
Totally.
was I think to me the pinnacle of my enjoyment of card games. And now that it's like, well, I have to have every card so that I can play the exact cards that I need to play the best decks on the ladder, because the only way for me to continue to get cards is to play the ladder, and therefore there's no value in playing my friends ever unless they're over at my house and I can see their face. Like to me, playing against you when we've played Hearthstone, we play one or two random games sometimes, but
Sure.
there's no way to make like a random deck really that's any good, and there's no real value in me playing you with the same decks that we all play on the ladder, and there's no time to make up fun decks because we all know the decks that are on the ladder and we're just gonna
Sure.
lose
Yeah.
to those. And so what's the point? But if somebody told me I never had to play the ladder again and then could just play fun decks against my friends, I think I would do that a lot more.
Yeah. They did introduce a new quest as part of this patch that added the hero portrait and the friend week. And the new quest is 80 gold, and it you play a game against a friend, and both you and the friend get 80 gold after the game.
Does this signify maybe that their Hearthstone player base is dwindling, or maybe people aren't playing as many hours or something? They're trying to get people to play their friends, get them back online.
I don't know, it's hard to guess at that kind of stuff. Obviously, they don't release any information about subscribers, or well, not subscribers, but like numbers or accounts or hours played or any of that stuff. But the new hero portrait is tied to the sort of recruit a friend system to start playing Hearthstone. So it's probable that at least they're trying to find a way to push the game onto more people.
Right. And I think it is their best moneymaker currently, although maybe Overwatch has overtaken that.
It's hard to know, right? It's tough to say the like dollar per time spent developing ratio, how many people did they have assigned to it versus these other kinds of games and stuff. All that stuff is completely hidden from the public, so there's no real way to know any of that kind of stuff.
I think we as the public do find some of it out when some of us are investors in that company, and we find out things like although they did say they were going to stop reporting WoW numbers in their calls
Yeah.
because they're
Eh,
bad.
right, but like of course it is, because that game has been out for over 15 years
Is
or
it
whatever.
15? I thought it was like just over 10.
Nah, it's less. But the game came out in like 2003 or 2004 or something like that. So it's not a lot less than 15.
Wow.
13, 12, something like that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's crazy to think
Yeah.
that long ago.
Yeah, it's a really weird, yeah, really weird thinking that.
Well, I mean, it's weird thinking that because I think it was such a seminal game, but then you remember things like, oh, I don't know, Pokemon, like we were talking about last week, is
Sure.
21 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
21. Pokemon could literally drink. And you know
Except
what?
they can't because they're animals, Andy.
You know what though? The new game makes me want to drink.
Oh, have we had some troubles in Trainerville?
JJ, I don't know how people would ever be competitive in that game playing it casually.
It's not competitive, though.
Well, it is though because okay, the catching of Pokemon is not competitive.
Yeah.
The going to gyms and battling is competitive.
Okay.
But let me walk you through week 2 of giving Pokemon Go a shot.
Uh-huh.
Again, for those of you that didn't hear last week, I take 2 walks a day, averaging 2 to 3 miles. Right?
Okay.
I
If you say
average
so.
on these walks 1 new Pokemon a day. And not new, I mean like 1 caught. Usually not even a new one.
Okay. Are you
Not,
going to public places?
I mean, I
Oh,
walk around my block, I guess.
so no. And you need to be going to parks, schools,
Oh, okay. Well, let me follow that
places that
up.
are, like congregation places.
I tried going to a park today, only to
Oh, okay.
find that the reception on my phone was good enough to make a phone call and
Hmm.
to get text messages and access my email a little bit. It was a little spotty for email, but darn it all if that Pokemon doesn't need to be connected completely to the server every second. And so if your connection's a little bit spotty and you're in a park where you could catch tons of them, you're not gonna if you don't have a great
Yeah.
connection. So
Yeah.
at one Pokemon a day, I've slowly hit 7, I think, as
That's
of
pretty good.
today. Sure. I felt like it was good, and then I went to the bank this afternoon, and right near the bank is the closest Pokemon gym to my house,
Hmm.
in which I thought, hey, cool! It just switched from blue to red today. Maybe I can do a battle or something, or wait until maybe I come out and it'll have switched back to blue. Oh, I guess I won't be doing anything because the lowest level Pokemon defending that gym is a CP 2000.
That's pretty high.
Yeah, I think the best thing I've caught is maybe a CP 2 something. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I mean, have you
So I don't
powered
get
up
to
your
battle at the
Pokemon? Have
gyms.
you have you leveled up your Pokemons? Have you done that kind of stuff?
Sure, but if you don't catch a lot of Pokemon, I guess you'd have to pay to level them up.
Hmm.
So at one Pokemon a day and an inability to train them at the gym, I seem to be in the land of needing to pay money, which I'm not gonna do.
Or you need to be in the land of having a lot of other friends to help you fight at that gym.
Sure.
Those are the choices, I guess.
Yeah. Well, given the inconsistency of being able to catch anything, or the game crashing while I'm in the middle of catching something,
Yeah.
or the need to go to more public spaces or places further from my house, or find gyms that maybe are not the one at a library directly next to housing that is probably within range of the gym, it seems like I'm going to have to do work to play this game rather than, the advertising of the game, which is walk around and have fun.
I mean, the game is about exploring, so I feel like it's okay for them to require you to go to places you haven't been. And it's also equally okay for you to say, I don't want to do that and not play the game.
I would love to go places I haven't been, and I guess maybe it would be fine to take with me places I haven't been and then try to catch new things there. But you basically write off the rest of the game because with the amount of time you and I have, it doesn't sound like, by the time I hit 15 and have of 2000, that gym's going to be at 30 with a 4000. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So,
I think that the gyms in general are more. They're not meant to be done by yourself. They're meant to be done in groups. So I don't think it's necessarily a problem. And also, like, I don't think that's the appeal of the game that much. I think the walking around and the catching Pokemon stuff is the appeal. The fighting in the gym stuff kind of sucks from everything I've seen of it.
yeah, I mean, it definitely seems to be something that you would have to invest time and or money in to be able to do, which I know a lot of people did with Ingress. Obviously, they flew around the world with huge groups of people trying to take down these, big gyms and stuff
Sure,
like that. I don't know what they called them, forts. What did they call them in Ingress?
they were like portals, and it was a bunch of sci-fi stuff.
I don't know, man. Unless they fix the server issues, I don't see me taking this game much further.
Yeah, I sort of feel like the appeal is not. Yeah, and my girlfriend is still playing it. Off and on when we go on walks or whatever. And it's fine. It's a fun little thing to do every so often while you're walking around. And that's kind of it. It's like I know the Pokemon song, right? You want to be the very best, like no one ever was, and you gotta catch them all.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna settle for not being the best at all and slowly catching Pokemon.
Well, but the goal isn't to like it. It's got to catch them all, though. That's the theme, right? That's the anthem. So you want to make sure you catch them all. It doesn't really matter if you catch the best of them or your Pokemons are the greatest. It just is you get them all.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, maybe I worded that poorly, but like, yeah, it's about catching them all. So like, the exploring and the catching of them is the interesting part, I think, to a lot of people.
Well, it did inspire me last week. I told you I was going to pull out my Game Boy.
Yeah.
I did it, man.
So did you play some Pokemon?
I found my blue cartridge and I found my Game Boy Color and I popped that thing in there and it booted up and worked like a charm.
That's awesome.
That thing, that Game Boy, just ignore the game that's in it. That Game Boy is a marvel of gaming engineering. I don't know if you've picked up a Game Boy Color recently.
I haven't.
It is the perfect size for one hand now that I'm an adult. Like as a kid, it was definitely a two-hand item, but there have been games that, I think Bravely Default even says like, oh, well, we designed it so you can play this all with your left hand.
Mm.
Well, holding the DS XL with your left hand, I get hand cramps. That thing is heavy and huge and not meant for one hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I could hold this little thing all day, every day with one hand and control the whole game. There's 2 buttons and a D-pad, and you can play anything you want on there.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I did not remember how awesome it was to hold a Game Boy Color.
That's great, man. I'm glad you are reconnecting with your childhood here.
I am in a way, but at the same time, I think that I'm connecting with the fact that it's just so much simpler. And this is like you're reconnecting with your childhood and at the same time turning into one of those crotchety old people that's like, why are there so many buttons on this freaking remote?
Are you turning into like an old grandpa who can't understand newfangled technology because it's for the kids?
I think so, man. I mean, I cannot understand how you work Snapchat at all. What are you supposed to do? How do you message people?
I don't know. I don't have Snapchat installed.
But I mean, that's like one example. There's glowing buttons everywhere, and there's arrows and plus signs, and things that are circles, and it makes no sense. And there's messaging, but there's also snapping. I can't follow it. I'm getting old.
Okay. I don't have a response to that. Snapchat is a thing, but I don't use it, so it doesn't affect me.
I know, but I don't know. I was just pointing out, yes, you're right. I'm turning into one of those people.
I mean, it's okay, Andrew. If you want to sit and yell at the screen or at the sky and shake your fist and tell them how much you hate those kids on your lawn, that's your prerogative as an old man.
Well, I turned Pokemon on.
That's cool. I'm glad.
Playing through that, I played through about an hour, maybe a little bit more, and I thought, wow, I could get back into this. And then I noticed how simple that game was and how much fun it was. Although, gosh, that character moves so slowly. That will wreck your day when you realize how slowly the character moves on that screen. You're just like, man, can you run faster, please?
You just feel the time stretching ahead of you, all the hours of walking through that grass that you're going to need.
I remember getting a bicycle at some point and the movement increasing, but man, they really should have given you that bicycle from the beginning.
Yeah, I think they want to intentionally let you be slow.
Understood. Anyway, minor complaint aside, I compared it to Bravely Default, which I'm still playing, and my eyes almost fell out of my head thinking about all the systems that they have now put in place to play RPGs.
It is a bit more complicated these days, isn't it?
Yeah. And the other thing I realized was that you're literally dogfighting in Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, Pokemon has always been about animal on animal combat. There's some real. If you start thinking too carefully about the world of Pokemon, you can get into some pretty dark stuff, man.
I'm a little taken aback by our parents' acceptance of the game when you describe it to them. Yeah, we run around in the woods and you catch monsters and then you make the monsters fight each other.
That doesn't sound so bad until you realize that you're a 7-year-old child whose parents are super okay with you just leaving for no real reason. They're like, go out into the world, young child, and go fight these super dangerous monsters, by the way, that will totally kill you. And collect them.
Collect them?
Why not?
Train them, and then teach them to be pit fighters against each other.
Yeah, man. Chicken fighting is cool. Why not have our 6-year-old son get good at this? And there's a whole system. It's like the dog fighting league is the thing in the Pokemon world. It's pretty dark. And definitely don't go reading the like Pokedex entries on some of those guys. Some of them are pretty dark. Like what they're like how these Pokemon like live and stuff. It's pretty messed up.
Well, oh, and I clarified. I did do research. Green was only in Japan.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. I remembered seeing a green cartridge at one point.
I believe you, but I was pretty sure it was red, blue, and yellow. So at least it was over here.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Cool.
I think green was like the main game that came out over there, and then they're like, we could market this as 2 games.
Get that money.
Well, drag us out of the Pokemon hole of despair because the freaking app doesn't work. And tell me about Evo.
So I spent a decent portion of this weekend watching Evolution 2016.
I don't know anything about it. Tell me, what is Evolution 2016? Because
Evolution is a fighting game tournament that happens every year about this time in Las Vegas, Nevada, home of casinos and gambling and also this tournament. It is the World Fighting Game Championships, or that's how it bills itself. So they have generally the finals of all the tournaments lead up to this person is now the world champion of X game.
What would be some examples of games?
The games that they had this year, they usually have like a main list, and then usually people will, because there are so many people in the same place, will get together and organize side tournaments for games not on the list. Let me run down the list and some of the numbers that I know about the people in it. This year was the first year for Street Fighter V. That was the new Street Fighter game that came out for the new generation of consoles. They had over 5,000 entrants for the tournament for Street Fighter V.
Wow. Is it just open?
Yeah, anyone can sign up, pay for your badge, and then once you have the badge, you can enter as many different tournaments as you want.
Oh, okay. So it's like a convention.
It is
of gaming where they have just sort of stuff set up, and you can enter any of the tournaments. Okay, cool. So like they have one down here for computer gaming, like a LAN where you can join like 15 different game tournaments or whatever.
Yeah, totally. So it's similar in that it's almost always all console games. So I don't know that they have really any computer PC games. But that's just like historical, and that's where most of the players are. So that's where where the companies that sponsor these tournaments want the players to be. So anyway, so 5,000 entrants is a new record. This is probably the 20th year they've been doing this tournament, and this is the most they've ever had enter for any tournament ever. So that's a big deal. The top 8 finals, which happened this Sunday, were also broadcast live on ESPN2.
So kind of like what was that, Heroes of the Storm that was broadcast on ESPN2?
So Heroes of the Storm has been on there, Dota 2 has been on there, League of Legends has been on there, and now Street Fighter V.
Awesome.
Yeah, and apparently, I was watching some of it. I caught near the end. The broadcast was pretty good. They had commentators who knew what they were talking about, and it sounded like at least there was a decent reception to the game. Compared to some of the pretty poor receptions I think some of their esports stuff has gotten in the past.
Well, this is a whole different point from talking about Evo, which I know you really like Evo and fighting games, and we should talk more about, but
Sure.
Why? I just don't understand why when they'll show bowling or lawn darts or any of this other stuff on ESPN2.
Or poker.
Well, poker in and of itself would be almost the same as watching Hearthstone, for some people.
It's pretty similar.
I don't understand, and I know that we're gamers and all that, and that we enjoy this sort of stuff, but I don't enjoy League of Legends that much. I watch Dota and I watch Heroes of the Storm, but I don't enjoy Street Fighter V that much. But I would still watch these things and think they're interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a generational thing. I think specifically with that, ESPN has sort of trained its audience that these things are sports and they're cool and they're manly and they're fun and rah ESPN and my watch my sports stuff. And that perception does not hold true for certain segments of the audience, the younger segment, but probably for the older segment, turning on ESPN2 when you're bored at night and seeing what's this thing, and it's some a League of Legends tournament that makes no sense to you whatsoever. I can understand people not really wanting to see that on their TV.
No one is forcing you to watch ESPN2. It's the second ESPN. There's another ESPN.
Andrew, but people on the internet like to tell their other people their opinions.
Well, the internet is the domain of people watching League of Legends and Street Fighter V, so I wouldn't bother getting on the internet to complain about people watching those things on ESPN2 because they probably all watched them.
It is. But, so it sounded like, anyway, that it was pretty good.
Cool.
Anyway, so Street Fighter V is one of the tournaments they had. They also had Super Smash Brothers Melee.
From the GameCube?
From the GameCube, that's
right. Is it emulated, or is it still GameCube?
Nope, they play it on a GameCube and a CRT.
Why Melee and not the new one, Brawl?
So they did also have the new one, the Wii U version. But that final was not held on the finals day. It was held on the previous day due to time limitations.
Oh, okay.
Because the competitive scene around Melee is really big.
Even with the new game out, they don't know.
People really, really, really like Melee. And there's a lot of people who like the new one also. But a lot of people really, really love that old game. And they still play it, and it still draws tons of viewers.
Oh, yeah, I mean, basically every fighting game, I think, has its permanent crowd, right? Like, I learned how to play Street Fighter 2. I'm one of the top 25 people at Street Fighter 2. I'm not going to quit playing Street Fighter 2.
Sure. But a lot of those people also then move on to Street Fighter 3 and 4 and 5. It seems like a lot of the Melee players have not moved on to the newer Smash Brothers games. They still play Melee for whatever reason.
Probably because there was such a huge gap.
Yeah, and the game is very different. It's a lot more technical compared to the older game or the newer games. And say whatever you want about how the design of that game or anything. I personally don't enjoy watching it that much because I just can't get into it compared to some of these other fighting games. But I totally respect that there's a large number of people that love it, and they should be able to watch it. I mean, like, we're talking 100,000 people viewing this, and that's just this game. Street Fighter V had even more, so it's a phenomenon for sure.
Now, what is it? I have liked maybe 2 to 3 fighting games ever, and most of them just kind of click my brain off. Mm-hmm. I know you really like fighting games. What drags you A, into fighting games, and B, into watching fighting games? Because I can watch someone play them in the same room, but Street Fighter on a TV, I would watch to support games on TV, but I wouldn't watch out of interest per se.
So I think the interesting thing about watching a fighting game compared with watching like Dota or some of these other games, it's a lot more obvious who's winning, right? The fighting game, there's a life bar. The guy with the lower life bar is losing. There's a count in the match, right? You have to win best 2 of 3 to win the match, right? The person who has 1 and the other guy doesn't have any, that person's winning. Or, and then each match there's a best of 3, and then and then it's a best of 5 of the best of 3s, right? So you play 1 set in the fighting game, right? You have to win 2, and then it resets, and that's 1, and then you have to do anyway. But it's a lot more clear to the player and the audience that you're watching what's going on, right? Oh, that guy just got punched in the face. Oh, he's losing. It's pretty clear, right?
Okay.
Like if you're being punched in the face, you know what's going on. So that part makes it you don't have to know necessarily a lot outside of the game to understand it. So that makes it a lot easier for someone to get into.
Gotcha.
Secondly, there is a lot of drama and intrigue created from the tournament structure. So these tournaments, at least at Evo, are double elimination. So as you know, when you're having a big tournament, right, you create a bracket, and there's the winner's side of the bracket and the loser's side of the bracket, as happens with a double elimination tournament. And so then you get these storylines that develop throughout the tournament of, okay, these players started here and they played against and they lost to this guy, and then they had to fight their way through the loser's bracket, which involves, many, many more matches in a loser's side of a bracket than the winner's side.
Do you think that the drama comes from it being individuals? Because tournaments for every game have brackets and people will play their way through the loser's bracket.
Yeah.
I remember I watched a Dota 2 tournament with you and we were watching
Mm-hmm.
the finals and you were rooting for this team that had gone all the way through the loser's bracket and they'd played something like 6 games in 2 days and they were exhausted and all that. So that story exists no matter what game you're watching.
Totally. But it's just, again, it's a little bit easier to follow and easier to understand when it's just one guy.
Okay, so that's
or
what
one girl or one person, and it's just it's this person. They, their story was they'd been to all these tournaments leading up to this. They were doing really great, and they lost early in the tournament to some fluke occurrence. Oh my god! And now the champion from last year has to fight all the way through in the losers bracket. It makes a really compelling story when you tell it like that.
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying about the simplicity of it versus something like, it's an individual in Hearthstone, but if you turned on Hearthstone, 90% of people, even in the gaming community, would say, I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah, it's a lot more direct, right? Like you can see what happens, and because it's happening in real time, very quickly, and these players are making decisions and guesses. So I guess that goes into the other reason that it's fun to watch is that fighting games are inherently competitive, but the real thing that's happening in a fighting game is a game of predictions and guesses and trying to understand what your opponent is going to do while running your game plan and preventing theirs
in extreme real time, because
yes
if you've ever played a
all in
fighting
real
game,
time.
you have to make decisions about your move, a second before you're going to do it, because it takes a second to execute all these commands to do the moves.
Generally in fighting games, people think about things in terms of frames. Frames happen 1/60th of a second. There's 60 frames in a second. And then you do these, it's like, oh, this move takes 6 frames to start up and then 8 frames to hit and then 2 frames to recover. And so you have to think, okay, well, I know these sorts of data about these moves and I know it goes this far. My opponent is this place on the screen and I'm over here. What moves do I have that can stop the moves that he has? And it just becomes this sort of rock, paper, scissors game playing out super fast in real time. You're guessing, okay, I know he's the type of guy who's going to try and do something cheap and go low. He's going to kick me and sweep my legs. So that means I'm going to jump and punch him from above. And or you think, oh, well, he's going to try and play defensively and just wait for me to react. So I'm going to throw fireballs at him over here from this side of the screen to make him do something. Or these kind of games. And it's all happening instantly between these two players at a very, very high level.
And thankfully, you don't have to know about those things to understand
Totally
that
don't.
a guy is throwing fireballs. You don't have to know anything about like the characters or their abilities or whatever, I guess, to watch and enjoy in a way.
Yeah, and so yeah, like I said, that's the high level of the game, and that's what really draws me into this stuff because I don't play any of these games. I'm awful at fighting games.
Yeah, that's one reason that my interest in watching them waned, was because I just get destroyed when I play fighting games.
Totally.
It's never been competitive. I think you and I are the only two people that play against each other in fighting games and have fun playing against each other because we both stink. Like I play a buddy of mine, Ryan, on fighting games like Smash Brothers and everything else, and I really like Smash Brothers, but I lose every time. There's no question about what's going to happen. It's a question of how many lives I can take off of him before it's over.
Yeah, and that's and I accept that I'm bad, and that's fine. And it's just a matter of learning and just seeing these players that are clearly both of these people who are super great at this game, and sort of learning the things, very on a surface level. Okay, well, this guy, when he punches, his arm goes this far. So that means about the distance he can get someone, or his leg sticks out this far when he kicks. And so then okay, well that's about the distance, and they'll both be hovering at the edges of those distances, or they'll be trying to do things to each other. It's a really interesting game, and that sort of stuff is really exciting. And then the sort of the hype moments come in. Oh, this guy's down 2 sets, so he has to win now a bunch of games in a row in order to come back. And then he pulls off the amazing comeback, right? He had a pixel of life left, and he grabs the other guy and does a body slam on him and throws him up against the side and does his super, and like, oh my god, he won, and the whole crowd explodes, and it's like super exciting. And that kind of stuff is the reason why you watch those games. It's really, really cool. And usually the commentators are pretty good at highlighting when the cool stuff is happening. So if you're just listening, even if you don't understand what the term means, you don't know what a meaty is, or you don't understand why you would choose to block there, or why he's throwing a fireball, or even who these characters are, usually when their voices start getting fast and the volume starts going up, and you can usually hear the crowd in the background getting hyped too, something cool is going on.
And it's a lot easier to follow than another couple types of real-time games like Dota or StarCraft, where you'd have to know more about what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Right. And those games also involve high-level mind games, but it's a lot easier to see the mind games and what's happening when you're watching a fighting game.
Cool. Right on. So did you watch more than just Street Fighter V?
I also like to watch a game called Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And that game is, it's a bit old. It came out for the 360 and the PS3. In fact, it's so old that it's no longer on sale anymore. You can't even buy it. The rights have lapsed, and Marvel doesn't license their characters out anymore, so there's no way for Capcom to legally sell it. But that game, I like. That is a 3-on-3 fighting game. So each player has 3 characters, and you can switch between them whenever you want. And that game is insane for a completely different reason, because there's just explosions and stuff going on all the time.
Isn't that what you don't like about Smash Brothers?
No. The stuff I don't like about Smash Brothers is not the fact that there's explosions and stuff happening on the screen all the time. That's not my issue with that game. My issue with that game is just the completely insular nature of the game. It doesn't compare to any other fighting game. It doesn't work the same as anything else. And I understand how other fighting games work, but I don't understand how Smash works, because I don't play just Smash. And I've never played Smash, right? So I don't really understand. I didn't grow up playing that game. I don't have the nostalgia for it or these characters, so I just don't understand that game.
But it doesn't qualify to you then as a fighting game that you can watch and enjoy because it's a fighting game and you don't have to know those things? Because I thought that was the appeal of that.
I don't enjoy watching Smash.
All right.
I think that other people might, but I don't.
Fair enough. Capcom.
And that's just me. But the Marvel vs. Capcom game, a lot of people don't like watching. But I think it's crazy because it's about every 2 seconds someone is activating a super and doing something cool. It has all the the cool comic book characters that I like from the past, and in a lot of their older costumes. It has Deadpool in it from before Deadpool was cool, and a lot of really cool characters from times that I like, characters and stuff that I like, and it's cool. The game is insane, really fast paced. There's infinites. There's all you can just combo someone to death in 30 seconds or whatever. And there's a high level game inside that too, right? Like every crazy action that's going on, there's a reason why this guy's throwing 800 fireballs at 8 different levels across the screen all the time. And it's that sort of just spectacle is really cool to me.
Did they have my favorite and your favorite and the best fighting game of all time there?
Street Fighter 2 Turbo?
Dive Kick.
Dive Kick. No. I do like Dive Kick quite a bit, but no, Dive Kick was not at EVO. A lot of the, we'll call them the FGC, the fighting game community, do not like Dive Kick that much.
Oh, man.
Yes.
I thought Dive Kick was going to be the next big thing, man.
I wish. I know there's some people that work at the studio that made Dive Kick, they'd be very happy to hear us saying that.
Oh,
But no,
bummer.
sadly, I know I do love Dive Kick, and that game is a great fighting game for anyone who wants to understand why fighting games are cool. Play Dive Kick. In about 30 seconds after playing, you'll understand. Oh, this is why it's cool, because I have to think about what he's going to do to get him with what I can do. And that is the essence of all fighting games, distilled down to this 2-button game where you just can jump and kick, and that's it.
Yeah, so if you didn't catch that, the game is called Dive Kick.
That's right.
You jump, which they call dive.
Dive into the air.
You dive into the air.
That's right.
And then you decide, once you're in the air, at what point in the height of your jump you're going to kick.
That's right. And your kick will come at some angle down from the height of your jump towards vaguely the area of your opponent.
Angles determined by what character you play. So
right.
you have to know what your angle of jump is and your opponent's angle of jump and kick.
Mm-hmm.
And then you determine when you will jump and when you will kick.
And you can do some stuff like hop backwards, and
some characters can hop backwards.
And that's basically the whole game.
Yes. So, like JJ's saying, it's a very simple kind of intro to fighter game mechanics of understanding making moves that not necessarily have to come ahead of your opponent. Sometimes you have to feint a move so that your opponent does something so that you
right.
are able
you want to try and bait them into a reaction, or you want to put yourself in a place where you can capitalize on the next thing that they're going to do. Or if you think they're going to kick, you want to jump so that their kick misses you. But if you think they're going to jump, you want to kick so that their jump is in the wrong place, in the wrong height. And this kind of it's mind games back and forth between the two players over and over and over.
Yes, it very much was not Street Fighter where you had to memorize a billion combos, which is what I really loved about Dive Kick. And what I hate about playing fighting games is, like, I can memorize maybe the 2-button combos, but when you start getting into the 3 and the 4 and the 5, and then you rotate the stick in certain directions 3 or 4 times in the middle of all these, I'm just done. I'd have no interest in learning more than even one character's worth of combos and needing to know what every character does. No, thank you. Dive Kick.
Luckily, you don't need to know. Frequently, you have no need to know how to perform the other character's combos. But regardless, yes, Dive Kick has 2 buttons. One of them jumps, one of them kicks. You press them alternately. That's the game.
I'm surprised it didn't catch on.
It's a very niche kind of thing.
There was major hype for that game.
I think you're probably pretty wrong about that.
Come on, man. We tried it at Comic-Con last year, and there was a huge line. And by huge line, I mean we had to wait for one station.
Yeah, there was that was already at least 2 Comic-Cons ago.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been.
Yeah.
Well, this is the pre-Comic-Con podcast, by the way.
That's right. We are going to Comic-Con starting later this week.
Yes. It's going to be awesome.
I'm pretty excited for it.
They're going to have a whole bunch of gaming stuff there this year. I think Nintendo's going to have a huge lounge like they always do, and they're going to bring a bunch of games. And you and I are debating whether they'll bring the Zelda game.
I think they're not going to.
I'm being optimistic, which is very uncharacteristic of me, because I really want to play the Zelda game.
It would be cool.
Although the line for it will be 1.5 miles long.
Yep, and we know about you in lines.
I don't wait in them anymore?
Uh-huh.
Maybe we'll go while the baby's asleep.
Sure. There is also a Microsoft area somewhere.
There's an off-site arcade, I think.
Yes, I think they partnered with the Nerdist, those people, and they're putting on a Microsoft thing where they have a whole bunch of stuff. Maybe we'll find wherever that is and check it out if we have time.
I think PBR has a booth there this year, and they're putting together like a pinball machine tournament.
Yeah. I saw someone sent that to, I assume, both of us.
Yeah.
A PBR-themed pinball machine made by Stearns, the company that makes pinball machines.
Yeah.
I assume they're the last one, because I can't imagine there are many companies.
Did you play pinball? I think
I never really was into it.
Well, I think back to arcades and okay, so after baseball, we would go for pizza, and the pizza place had an arcade, and I would play a little bit of Tekken, And then play. Actually, I would play pinball. I liked the Adams Family pinball a lot.
Yeah, I just never got into it. I think it's fun. Um, pinball is one of those things where it was like if I had a quarter and everything was a quarter, would I choose to spend my quarter on playing a round of pinball, or would I rather play Street Fighter or the Simpsons arcade game or whatever?
Sure, but often Street Fighter was $1 or Mortal Kombat was $1, and the rest of the pinball machines were a quarter. So you
Yeah,
spent your
yeah,
$5 playing the other games, and then your last 50 cents was like, well, I guess I'll go play pinball.
yeah, yeah. I just don't have a lot of great like fond memories of playing pinball, but it's cool. It's one of the things that like now as an adult, if you go to those like gaming barcades and places where stuff is set up on free play, like I would play some pinball. Yeah,
Oh man, barcades are really fun. There's
yeah,
a
yeah.
really
They're really
couple
cool.
good ones in LA. I haven't found a good one in Orange County, but
Yeah, there's a fun one in San Diego called Coin Op that's pretty good. And they have actually the bar is actually pretty good there. That's the part that I like the most. They have good drinks, and the arcade stuff is just there for fun.
well, you brought it up. What is your fondest or multiple fondest gaming machines that you loved to play when you were in arcades?
Man, I
Like
don't know.
if you could like make, let's say, okay, if you could make an arcade with your 5 games that you would just play for free in your house, what would be in it? Or less
Yeah,
than 5. Who cares if we actually hit 5? Because I can't
yeah,
think
I
of
don't
5.
know.
So
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to think of five either. Um, because the ones I played versus the ones I would want to own are probably different.
okay, I want a Neo Geo arcade cabinet
Sure,
so I could
sure.
play
There's a
Puzzle Bubble and Metal Slug.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Metal Slug is always really cool. I love that game. Puzzle Bobble, pretty good.
Time
Um,
Crisis 2.
sure. Okay, which one is Time Crisis 2?
The
I
one
mean,
with
it's the light gun.
the
I know.
light guns that had recoil on them.
Okay, and the slide kicks back and forth every time you shoot.
Yeah, the slide racked back and forth every time you shoot, and you pressed the pedal to jump up and down
Okay,
out of
yeah,
cover.
that's a pretty good one. Yeah, yeah, that's cool for sure.
All right, so I've
Um,
come up with the Neo Geo cabinet and Time Crisis. We got to fill in 3 more.
sure. I think it would be cool just for like nostalgia's sake to have like a Mortal Kombat cabinet. I don't know which one I would choose. I'd have to
Mortal
think about the.
Kombat, Marvel vs. Capcom, Street Fighter, or Tekken.
Yeah, I think I
You
would
get one
choose more.
fighting machine.
Yeah. See, because if I have to choose like one fighting machine, I'm going to choose like the most common fighting game that I think everyone played, and you'd pick like Street Fighter 2 Turbo, right?
Mm,
But I think I personally in arcades probably played the most Mortal Kombat.
okay. I like Mortal
Um,
Kombat.
yeah, and it would probably be Mortal Kombat 1 of those, even though I think Mortal Kombat 3 is probably the best Mortal Kombat game.
All right.
If you're gonna like force me to choose, um,
Do we need a DDR machine in our arcade?
I don't want one.
No?
I have no nostalgia for those.
Okay. Just checking. I'm
Yeah,
okay
no, it's
skipping
cool.
it.
Look, DDR is cool. Some people
No,
love
I'm
those.
good. I'm good. If it's our arcade, man, we don't have to put it in. I
Yeah.
was just checking to make sure we didn't have to cover that base.
Let's see what well, like. Did you ever play a lot? Did you play a lot of Gauntlet
Yeah, I'd be down with a gauntlet machine.
or what was the newer one called?
No, gauntlet. You can't do a
The
newer one.
original one, right? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Gauntlet's a Red Wizard needs food badly.
Yes. I would love to have a
Yeah,
gauntlet machine.
Gauntlet's cool.
What about a
A lot
TIE
of
fighter machine?
which
The X-wing or the
one?
TIE fighter where you sat in and piloted the.
Okay, so like, is that game like? See, I don't know what that game is because when you say like a Tie Fighter machine, I just want to play like Tie Fighter, the PC game.
I think it was like a port for an arcade, so maybe we leave it off because it's a port. Oh,
Okay, I didn't. I don't know about those. Those like the cockpit and like the cockpit simulation games in arcades are all pretty cool, but I just feel like they'd be so gigantic.
yeah, yeah. Well, we have infinite space in our mental
Okay,
arcade.
that's true. That's true. Get like Overdrive or Afterburner.
What about like
Afterburner's pretty
Cruising
sweet.
USA?
Cruising USA is pretty classic too. Again, it's another one of those games I never played very much, but it was
Afterburner's a
always
pretty
cool.
good pick. I like that one.
Yeah, I like Afterburner. We should put that one in there for sure.
Okay, so we've got we've got Neo Geo, Time Crisis, Mortal Kombat, Gauntlet, Afterburner. Those are pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good
Get like
arcade.
we should get like a Pac-Man or a Donkey Kong in there.
You know, we could get one of those
real
remade.
classic.
No, you get one of the remade ones, the remade cabinets where you can play Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, all those in one cabinet, and it's a flat glass table.
So a cocktail machine.
Yeah, the cocktail machine that had been rebuilt. I forgot the name, but where they've been rebuilt to play like multiple ones you can select. Yeah, done. Perfect arcade.
Play some Galaga on that cocktail. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think all of the classics need to go on the Missile Command.
Missile Command, though, you want to play it. You don't want to play it with a joystick and buttons, though. You want to play it with that trackball.
Okay, should we get a Missile Command machine then?
I don't know how many people remember fondly Missile Command. But it's cool. That game is cool. It's hard. I suck at it.
Space Invader on the cocktail cabinet too.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Space Invader's so good.
Asteroid.
The game's hard too.
Yeah.
Also good.
I think that's a good place to leave it with our infinite mental arcade.
Yeah. I would pay to go to that mental arcade. It'd be pretty sweet.
JJ, let's not forget to do our social media this time.
Oh, yeah, Andrew. People can contact us at podcast@WeWereGamers. That's an email address that people can send email to. podcast@WeWereGamers.com.
We also have a Twitter @WeWereGamers. We have an Instagram, WeWereGamers. We you know what? Let's make a pact right now that we're going to Instagram from Comic-Con.
Oh, whoa. Okay, yeah, sure, we could do that.
Install that thing on your phone.
Okay.
And we're both going to Instagram from Comic-Con.
All right.
We'll do it.
We'll send some hot grams.
And you can find podcasts on iTunes, Google Play.
Yeah. Hey, give us a rating. Put some stars on that. Let us know.
Email us. Tell us why you gave us a good review, bad review, whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
And you can always listen on our website at weweregamers.com. All right, let's get out of here. I want to play some games.
Okay, that sounds great, Andrew.